Bangladesh is in turmoil. The streets are filled with the sounds of dissent, the air thick with the cries of a populace demanding change. The unrest has been building for weeks, a crescendo of frustration and anger that has finally reached its breaking point. After weeks of unrest and protest, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has resigned. Her tenure, once seen as a beacon of stability, had become a lightning rod for controversy and discontent. The announcement came as a shock to some, but for many, it was the culmination of a long-fought battle. Her departure was swift, fleeing to neighboring India as the pressure mounted. The images of her hurried exit were broadcast around the world, a stark contrast to the once unassailable figure she had been. The corridors of power she once walked now echo with the footsteps of uncertainty. In the streets of Dhaka, the capital city, celebrations erupted. The air was electric with the energy of a people who had finally seen their demands met. Flags waved, songs were sung, and the city became a living, breathing testament to the power of collective action. People poured out, defying curfews, their joy echoing through the night. The celebrations were not just confined to the daylight hours, they continued well into the night, a testament to the resilience and determination of the Bangladeshi people. Hasina's rule, marked by accusations of corruption and a heavy hand against dissent, had finally come to an end. The images were striking. The very streets that had once been scenes of violent crackdowns were now filled with jubilant crowds celebrating the end of an era. Crowds gathered outside Hasina's residence, once a symbol of power, now overtaken by the very people her government sought to control. The gates that had once kept the public out were now wide open, a powerful symbol of the changing tides. There was a sense of euphoria, a collective sigh of relief, but also an undercurrent of uncertainty. The celebrations were tempered by the knowledge that the future was still unwritten, and the challenges ahead were formidable. A power vacuum now existed, and into that void stepped the military, promising stability and a return to order. The sight of soldiers in the streets was a stark reminder that while one chapter had closed, another was just beginning. This was not just about Hasina. The conversations in the streets, in homes and in public spaces were about more than just one leader. They were about the future of a nation, the hopes and dreams of millions, and the path forward. It was about the future of Bangladesh, a future that many hoped would be brighter, more democratic and free from the shadows of corruption and authoritarianism. A nation forged in the fires of revolution, yearning for democracy, now found itself at a crossroads. The echoes of past struggles were ever present, a reminder of the resilience and strength of the Bangladeshi people. The world watched, wondering if this would be a new beginning or a descent into further chaos. International eyes were on Bangladesh, with hopes that this moment would lead to a brighter future rather than more turmoil. For many Bangladeshis, the resignation was a victory hard won. It was a moment of triumph, a testament to the power of the people to effect change. Even in the face of great adversity, it came at a cost, with lives lost and a nation deeply divided. The celebrations were tinged with the memory of those who had paid the ultimate price for this moment of change. The celebrations, while joyous, were tinged with the knowledge that the road ahead would be long and arduous. The path to true democracy and stability would require continued effort and vigilance. The hope, however, was palpable. In the faces of the people there was a renewed sense of possibility, a belief that a better future was within reach. A chance for a new Bangladesh, one free from the grip of authoritarianism and corruption, seemed within reach. The journey ahead would be challenging, but the spirit of the Bangladeshi people was unbreakable, and their hope for a brighter future was unwavering. The protests that ultimately led to Hasina's downfall began with a seemingly specific demand: an end to quotas in government jobs reserved for the families of those who fought in Bangladesh's War of Independence. These quotas, while initially intended to honor the sacrifices made during the war, had over time become a source of deep-seated resentment among the general populace. These quotas, intended to honor the nation's past, had become a source of resentment, seen as a tool for nepotism and favoritism. Many felt that these policies were being exploited by those in power to secure jobs for their own families and allies, rather than being used to genuinely honor the war heroes. Students, often at the forefront of social change, took to the streets. They organized peaceful marches and rallies, their voices echoing through the city streets, demanding a fairer system that rewarded merit over connections. Their message resonated far beyond the initial grievance. What started as a call for job quota reform quickly gained traction among various segments of society, uniting people from different walks of life who were all fed up with the status quo. It tapped into a deep well of frustration with corruption, economic inequality, and the increasingly authoritarian nature of Hasina's rule. The protests became a platform for voicing a multitude of grievances, from the lack of economic opportunities to the stifling of free speech. What began as a student movement quickly morphed into a nationwide uprising. Cities across the country saw massive gatherings, with people from all age groups and backgrounds joining in the call for change. Social media played a pivotal role. Platforms like Facebook and Twitter became the battlegrounds where the narrative of the protests was shaped and shared. Videos and images of the protests went viral, drawing international attention and support. Images of police brutality against peaceful protesters spread like wildfire. The sight of young students being beaten and arrested only served to galvanize public opinion against the government. The government's attempts to control the narrative backfired, fueling the flames of dissent. State-run media tried to downplay the protests, but the truth was already out there, shared widely on social media. The world watched as a generation, armed with smartphones and a thirst for change, challenged a government that seemed increasingly out of touch. The demands escalated. What began as a call for job quota reform soon included broader demands for systemic change. Calls for an end to corruption, for transparency and accountability, for Hasina's resignation echoed through the streets. The protesters were no longer just students. They were now a united front demanding a complete overhaul of the system. The government responded with force, but the crackdown only served to strengthen the resolve of the protesters. Images of police using tear gas and water cannons against unarmed civilians only added fuel to the fire. Bangladesh was a nation on the brink, its people determined to have their voices heard. The protests had grown beyond a single issue, becoming a powerful movement for change that could no longer be ignored. With Hasina's departure, a dangerous void emerged. The political landscape of Bangladesh was left in a state of uncertainty, with no clear leadership to guide the nation through its turbulent times. The sudden vacuum in governance created an atmosphere of anxiety and speculation among the populace. Into that void stepped the Bangladesh army, a familiar player in the nation's turbulent political history. The military, with its disciplined structure and authoritative presence, quickly moved to fill the gap left by the civilian government. Their swift action was both a reassurance and a reminder of the past. The army chief, in a televised address, promised to restore order and oversee a peaceful transition of power. His words were carefully chosen to convey a sense of stability and control. He emphasized the military's commitment to the nation's welfare and the importance of maintaining peace during this critical period. He urged calm and assured the nation that the military's intentions were noble. The address was designed to soothe the fears of the citizens and to project an image of the army as a guardian of the nation's interests. The chief's calm demeanor and authoritative tone were meant to instill confidence in the people. But for many Bangladeshis, the sight of the army on the streets evoked a mixture of hope and trepidation. While some saw the military's intervention as a necessary step to restore order, others were haunted by memories of past military regimes. The presence of soldiers in urban areas was a stark reminder of the nation's troubled history. Bangladesh has a long and troubled history with military coups. The nation has experienced several instances where the military has taken control, often leading to periods of authoritarian rule. These coups have left deep scars on the collective memory of the people, shaping their perceptions of military involvement in politics. The scars of past interventions, marked by human rights abuses and a stifling of democratic freedoms, ran deep. The memories of oppression, censorship, and the loss of civil liberties were still fresh in the minds of many. These historical wounds made the current situation all the more precarious. Could this time be different? The question lingered in the air as citizens debated the potential outcomes of the military's involvement. Some hoped for a new beginning, while others feared a repeat of history. The uncertainty of the future weighed heavily on the minds of the people. The international community watched with bated breath. Global leaders and foreign diplomats closely monitored the developments in Bangladesh, aware of the potential implications for regional stability. The eyes of the world were on the nation as it navigated this critical juncture. Statements urging restraint and a swift return to civilian rule poured in from world capitals. International organizations and foreign governments called for a peaceful resolution to the crisis, emphasizing the importance of upholding democratic principles. The global community's concern was palpable. The United States, long a supporter of Bangladesh, found itself in a delicate position, balancing its strategic interests with its commitment to democratic values. The US government had to navigate the complex dynamics of supporting stability while advocating for a return to civilian governance. The army's presence was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it provided a sense of security and order in a time of chaos. The disciplined and organized nature of the military helped to stabilize the situation and prevent further unrest. On the one hand, it brought a semblance of order to the streets after weeks of chaos. The visible presence of soldiers helped to deter violence and maintain peace. The military's efforts to assist civilians and restore normalcy were appreciated by many. On the other hand, it raised the specter of a return to military rule, a prospect that sent chills down the spines of many Bangladeshis. The fear of losing democratic freedoms and returning to an era of authoritarianism was a constant undercurrent in the public discourse. The coming days and weeks would be crucial in determining the army's true intentions and the fate of Bangladesh's fragile democracy. The actions of the military and the response of the civilian population would shape the future of the nation. The world watched, waiting to see if Bangladesh would emerge from this crisis stronger and more united, or if it would fall back into the shadows of its past. In the midst of the uncertainty, a name emerged from the protest movement, a beacon of hope in a time of turmoil. Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel Peace Prize laureate known for his pioneering work in microfinance and poverty alleviation, became the people's choice to lead an interim government. Yunus, seen as a man of integrity and principle, represented a clean break from the corruption and political maneuvering that had plagued Bangladesh for decades. He was a symbol of hope, a testament to the enduring belief in the power of good governance and the potential for a brighter future. Student leaders at the forefront of the protests formally proposed Yunus as the head of a new interim government. Their call resonated with millions across the country. Here was a man untainted by the stain of politics, a man who could unite a divided nation and chart a course towards a more just and equitable society. The army's response to this demand would be a litmus test of its intentions. Would they heed the people's call and allow for a truly civilian-led transition, or would they seek to maintain their grip on power? The fate of Bangladesh and the hopes of millions hung in the balance.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.